So in the past, we have talked about why you shouldn't slander and demean people who have done model railroads differently than you. But we also need to acknowledge the fact that there are some people who are really good at building and running model railroads. How do we objectively judge these model railroads, and how do we recognize when people are really good at model railroading? Well, I'm going to talk about that on Coffee and Trains. Welcome everybody to another edition of Coffee and Trains. Before we begin, I'm drinking Grounds and Hounds Rescue Roast, and as always, black with 2 sugars. So today's video is actually one that I'm a little bit unsure of making. It's something that I feel like with all the videos I've done in the past, I do need to address, and I want to preface it with a few things. First of all, I want to say that there are no bad model railroads. It doesn't matter what you think. If it has trains on it and someone's getting enjoyment out of it, it's not a bad model railroad. But at the same time, I also recognize the fact that we need to be able to judge when someone's model railroad is really good, when they are really good at model railroading, when they're really good at making scenery, and they have all of these different skills they put into making this fantastic work of art. We need to be able to recognize that and objectively judge it. So I have 3 main criteria that I use to look at a model railroad that's been around a while, that is already up to like a really high standard of modeling, and what I put into it in terms of when I look at saying like just how good is a good model railroad. So we're going to go over those 3 right now. My first criteria is how much work has gone into the model railroad. Now, I'm not saying that if you were able to do a really good looking model railroad quickly that it's not as good as something that took a while, but when you've taken as long as some of these model railroads have taken to build that we all see, it's going to be on a different level. And what I mean is, like, you have some railroads that have taken decades and have taken dozens of people to build and have actually sometimes been passed on to new family members and things like that. So when you're looking at a railroad like that, you got to look at how much work has gone into it. If it's a 30-year-old basement empire that's gone through a couple different iterations, and it's going to be on a different level than a lot of other model railroads. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a huge basement empire. If you have just an incredibly detailed shelf switching layout, you know, it may have taken a long time for that person to do those details. They may have done custom details, custom paint, things like that for their rolling stock and their locomotive. So just looking at how much work is put into a model railroad is an excellent way to objectively judge a model railroad. So that's one way that you can really look at how good a good model railroad is. My second tip for objectively judging a model railroad is to look and see if it accomplished the goal of what the creator wanted it to do. And what I mean by this is that all model railroads are different, and this is another reason why we can't subjectively judge them, because they're all really there to achieve a different goal, one goal, but in different ways. So the ultimate goal is to entertain the creator and be fun for them to operate, but we'll get to that in a second. But there's a lot of different ways to have fun with model railroading and for the railroad construction and design to achieve the goal that it set out to. And what I mean by this is some people want a nice looking model railroad that just has trains running around it. And if they do that, it is a great model railroad. Some people want to do very prototypical operations down to a week and a month of a certain year, that they know that specific structures and rolling stock and locomotives were running, and they research into that and they go really hard into that to make it as accurate as possible. And that's great model railroading. And that's a great model railroad. So you have to look at what the person was trying to achieve and see if they accomplished it. That's another great way to objectively judge a good model railroad, to see how good it is. My third and final tip is the most important one of all of them, and if you're going to go off one to judge, this is the one. Is the person who created it having fun with their model railroad? If they are happy with it, if they're having, well, I say happy, we're never truly happy. We always want to make it bigger and expand, and we always have expansion plans, but if they're happy running their model railroad, which means that if they have a shelf layout that they absolutely love, that it's all the space they had for it, and they are having a blast with it, that is a great model railroad. If they have a 4x8 sheet that they're running Lionel trains on, and they have all the crazy kooky accessories that Lionel has made throughout the years, and they're having a blast with it, that's a great model railroad. If they are building a prototype layout that's going to model a very specific section of real world railroad line and they're having fun with it, that's a great model railroad. So you really want to look and say, like, is this person having fun with their model railroad? That automatically makes the model railroad great. And the real reason for that is because it brings a different energy to the model railroad. When someone's having fun with something, it just generates a lot of positive energy. So when you're around that person and they're having fun, you're going to have fun. And that's just another element of making a good model railroad really, really good. So again, I want to reiterate that I do not believe that there is a single bad model railroad out there. If you are putting trains on tracks and running them around and having a blast, you have a good model railroad. But like I said, you've got to be able to take and look at people who are really gifted in the hobby and recognize them and say, like, this is a really great piece of art that you have created. So it's part of furthering the hobby and spreading the hobby. So I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. Let's get on to some of the coffees that you guys are drinking. All right, Sterny1 says that he is drinking Black Rifle Silencer Smooth Honey and French Vanilla Creamer. That sounds delicious. David F says cafeteria tub of coffee, and then he got the first pour, so it's extra strong. Very, very important on that first pour. Jay Van Am says that he is sitting in Professor Java's having a fresh ground cold brew with a scoop of maple ice cream. No need for milk and sugar. Well, you can put some in there, but you'll probably be floating around. You'll have so much sugar in your system. So thank you guys so much for watching. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. They are listed right here. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month. Get a lot of access to behind the scenes things. Plus, if you're at the $5 a month level, you get a model of the month to download and print yourself. So thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, drink some coffee, and happy railroading.